everybody, and welcome back to Signal. Thank you. It is great to see you all again, and I hope yesterday was an absolutely fantastic day for all of you. Now, yesterday we saw how developers are the future of engagement. Future of engagement at all kinds of companies, big and small, in every industry, building all kinds of experiences for their customers. But today, we wanted to start out by talking about organizations who are using Twilio and using communications to help the most vulnerable people in our society, nonprofits. And in particular, I'm excited that we have one organization who's going to be on stage today that I'm really glad that we support, because they help people who have been sexually assaulted, and we're going to hear from them. So to tell us more about how communications are impacting our society and the most vulnerable people around us, please welcome up the Vice President of Social Impact and the General Manager of Twilio.org, Erin Riley. Erin, come on up.
I want to take you back to when I first started at Twilio a few years ago. I was sitting at my desk, which was made out of a reused wooden door, in a room of about 100 other people without any walls, so we were all pretty close. I was just eating my oatmeal, looking at my big screen, just scrolling through my emails to see if there was anything I needed to address. And one email caught my attention. It was from Jason at Trek Medics, and the subject was, "You did this." I clicked on that email really fast. And when I opened it, this is what I read. "This morning, we received an alert of a possible child drowning in Monte Cristi Beach in the Dominican Republic. We dispatched an emergency alert to the volunteer medics in the area, and because one was right there on that same beach, he was there 50 seconds later. After performing CPR for a couple minutes with two other responders, they got the child's pulse back, and they prepared for transport. They were at the hospital a few minutes later. The child survived and was discharged later that night." I sat frozen, with my hand still over the mouse. Tears started welling up in my eyes, because you see, at that time, my daughter was 2. And when I was looking at that screen, which at this point was blurry, I saw this razor's edge, where on the one hand, that mother could have gone home that night, crumpled in darkness and loss. But instead, she was home safely, tucking her child into bed that night. All because Trek Medics was able to send the right message at the right time to the right person. And that's when I realized that if we could help all social impact organizations leverage that power of communications, our impact would be dramatically amplified. So that's our job. Our job is to help nonprofits use communications to help scale that important work that they're doing every single day. And I love our mission. Our mission is to fuel the communications that give hope, power, and freedom. And in the last few years, as we've been pursuing that mission, the number of nonprofits that are using Twilio has grown from 500 to 3,500. And these are the organizations that are improving education, strengthening our democracy, and helping people get access to food or a home. And then last year at Signal, we announced a pretty bold new goal, that within 10 years, we want to be helping 1 billion people every single year. When I stood here a year ago, the nonprofits that were using Twilio had helped about 25 million people. Now, a year later, those same nonprofits, and a whole lot more, have helped 100 million people. You're thinking the same thing I'm thinking, which is we still have a long way to go to 1 billion, And we know that the only way we're going to be able to do that is by helping social impact organizations around the world deliver life-changing communications. But then we started asking ourselves, what does it really mean to change a life? And we've started seeing a trend in the nonprofits that are using Twilio. We heard about the woman who was standing on a bridge with her son asleep in the back seat of the car. But she decided not to jump because she had a conversation with someone at Crisis Text Line. Or I think we have all been haunted by the shootings that are becoming way too frequent these days. And just a couple nights ago, I talked with LENCOMS that is providing streamlined communications for responders and people on site in emergencies like mass shootings. And the founder told me that how well you can respond is entirely dependent on how well you can communicate. Or I recently met with RAINN, the organization that powers the National Sexual Assault Hotline, and I heard the incredibly important work that they are doing to help people get through some of the worst experiences of their lives. And right now, I want you to hear directly from some of the people who have experienced sexual assault. But they are now on the other side. They have figured out how to have that experience not completely block them in their lives, and they figured that out with the help of RAINN. So let's listen.
For 35 years, living a secret and living in silence about what happened.
If I don't speak about it, it never happened.
I suffered because I hid that secret for so long.
The more you hold it in, the more it poisons you.
You're not alone. You're not wrong. It's not your fault.
Like with RAINN, it's about healing that and making a safe space.
It shows people who are victims, you know what? They're saying it now. It's okay if I tell.
When you let go of shame, you're free.
It's the best revenge, is to just live life and thrive and be awesome. It really is.
Good morning. Thank you for listening to these stories. These incredible individuals are teaching us that repair and rebuilding is possible after sexual violence. They show us, with their strength and courage, exactly what survivorship can look like. And the purpose of my organization is to ensure that as many victims as possible can get to this place. My name is Keely Sorensen, and I'm the Vice President of Victim Services at RAINN, the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization. And for the last 25 years, we've helped more than 3 million people get the information, resources, or services they require after they or someone they love has experienced this kind of violence. Let's sit with that. 3 million people. That is far too many. We also know it's the tip of the iceberg. As you just saw, every 92 seconds in this country, someone else is sexually assaulted. So that'll be another 5 people before I leave this stage. My job at RAINN is to oversee the chat and telephone helplines that assist survivors. And what I can tell you is we've learned that victims and survivors are people of every age, race and ethnicity, gender and sexual orientation, and income level. They suffer a terrible toll, most of them, especially when perpetrators aren't caught or when their loved ones don't even believe that these stories happened. Survivors are more likely to struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder, self-harm, substance abuse, even suicide. But here's the thing, RAINN is here for exactly these people. Now, we are living in a very important moment. With the rise of #MeToo, we see more and more brave people coming forward. They're saying, not anymore. This happened to me, it's enough, we're done. It's a fantastic moment. And the more people who speak out, the more others are moved to contact our organization and ask for help. And we're learning that the very first thing they need from us is a communication that we are a safe place for them to turn. Imagine the violations of trust that these individuals have suffered. And so we have to show them that safety. And we've also learned that safety for so many of them often means anonymous. And so they're not only looking to connect with an organization that understands the impacts of sexual violence and won't judge them for the anger or the confusion or fear that they feel, but also can do so very discreetly. And so while victims are asking for more privacy than ever, we also live in an era, as you well know, where personal data is constantly up for grabs. And so if you're the average person who wonders who might be monitoring your internet searches, then imagine what it's like for a child whose abuser might be in the other room and needs to figure out how to get help. That's the exact kind of survivor that motivated us to create the web's first secure crisis hotline, the National Sexual Assault Hotline. And while that hotline launched more than a decade ago, we are still very much committed to the technological innovation to provide amazing service, anonymous service, private service, discreet service for everyone who wants it. So I want to tell you a little bit about Shaban Rahman, our technology director, whose team is constantly looking for new ways to innovate. They've not only created the secure telephone chat and SMS hotlines, but they're always thinking of new tools. And so just this past January, we launched something called Help Room. It's a 24/7 peer-to-peer anonymous chat service that's moderated by our staff, where people can connect to one another privately, discreetly again. They can discuss ways to safety plan. They can discuss the first-time disclosure that they might be sharing with a loved one. And this is an opportunity for them to rebuild trust in themselves and their communities. And I'm happy to say that thousands of people every month are already taking advantage of this service. But Shaban's other role is to help RAINN find best-in-class technology products to advance our mission. And that's how we came to partner with Twilio. So Twilio's programmable voice powers our Safe Helpline. That's the Department of Defense's 24/7 anonymous hotline for survivors of sexual assault within the military. RAINN operates this hotline, and we are able, through the power of Twilio, to connect with someone looking for therapy options when she's serving overseas, and then seamlessly warm transfer her over to her counseling center in the US. Or take Twilio's programmable SMS, which allows our helpline staff to serve and share resources globally with anyone looking for them, whether it's a Peace Corps volunteer in Africa or a NOAA scientist in the Arctic. Together, these Twilio technologies have made it possible for people to get the services that they need, to mitigate the effects of sexual assault, to start to return to themselves, their passions, and lead full lives. At RAINN, we've been able to serve tens of thousands of survivors every month, and growing, because we marry the best in technology with our service. We are committed to keep doing exactly this, and we will. Ultimately, we all share a responsibility to create a world free of sexual violence. But here's my promise to you. As individuals, we will be there for you should you or someone you love be struggling with this kind of violence. As tech professionals, I want you to know that your work is already helping tens of thousands of people all the time, every month. So thank you for that. And also know that we are very interested to dream up new interventions and meaningful ways to serve people. So if there are partnership ideas, please let us know. So in advance, thank you for everything that you'll do to ensure that sexual violence is a thing of the past. I can't wait to see us on the other side. Thank you.
Keely is talking to us about people who have experienced a traumatic event, but now they're on the other side of that, all because of the help and support they got from RAINN. And yesterday at Signal, we were talking a lot about conversations, and now we're talking about these types of conversations. The ones that are helping people survive sexual assault, or how Trek Medics is saving a child from drowning. And we start to see this trend, which is that organizations are using communications to help people in those moments of crisis. So it is clear to us how we can really change lives at scale. And that is by helping more organizations help people in those moments of crisis, in those times that mean the difference between life and death. And so now we have a vision that one day everyone who is at risk will get the help they need right when they need it. And in order to help us make progress toward this vision, today we are announcing the Crisis Response and Prevention Initiative. We are going to be supporting organizations across these areas of crisis: suicide, drug abuse, sexual assault, natural disasters, and domestic violence. We are listening to the organizations and experts that have been helping people in crisis for decades. And we're understanding the gaps that they're experiencing and bringing our technology proactively to them so that we can help them help more people. But I want to tell you something that I already hear all the time, that nonprofits have a really hard time getting funding to focus on technology, to build a product roadmap, leveraging all of the innovative technology that you all use every single day. And that just shouldn't be the case. And so that is why, as a cornerstone of this initiative, we are launching the Crisis Response Technology Network, made up of the leading organizations in crisis response, like these inaugural members. You see RAINN up here, but also Save the Children, the International Rescue Committee, and others. This is a network where they will be sharing their challenges, and then we will be working together to help fill those technological gaps that they are experiencing. And we are providing them that funding so that they can go create that product roadmap to reach more people. And today, I want to tell you something else that I am just so glad that we are doing. I'm glad because I think it's going to be a pretty critical step in helping these organizations and a whole lot more help the people who most need it. We are providing $5 million in funding to crisis response organizations so they can reach 50% more people. Today, we are opening a grant round to fund crisis response organizations beyond the ones that you saw on that slide just a moment ago. So tell any nonprofit that you know of that's working in crisis response to apply for a grant at Twilio.org. Because these are the organizations that are saving lives every single day. And we want to help them do that for a whole lot more people. There's another way that we all can help these organizations change more lives. I have always been impressed with this Twilio community. When I talk to you, not just our Twilio.org customers, but all of our customers, you are working on making things better. You are making your businesses better. You are making your communities better. And as we've been talking about conversations, the organizations that we've mentioned this morning, they all rely on volunteers to be that thoughtful, mindful voice to someone in that moment of crisis. And there are already millions of volunteers that are helping those organizations. And if you want to become one of those people today, we would love for you to do that. Because this is another way that we as a Twilio community can come together today to make a real difference. So I want to tell you how you can do that. I'm inviting you to pull out your phone and text in to 44663 to find out how you can volunteer with these crisis response organizations. You heard about Crisis Text Line, who helped that woman on the bridge. Or you heard from RAINN. Or Partnership for Drug-Free Kids that is really tackling this opioid crisis that we are all experiencing. So text in, and you'll find out several ways and opportunities that you can volunteer. As you can imagine, volunteering with these organizations requires training, and it deals with pretty intense topics. So if you have a little less time and you still want to help, these two organizations give you an opportunity to make a difference in just a few minutes, without any training. You can help people who are visually impaired or perhaps refugees who need translations. So text in to 44663, and you'll get more information on how you can help all of these organizations. And they all use the same platform that you all use to connect with your customers. So when we are building Twilio, we don't just see it as hundreds of billions of interactions. We see every single one of those interactions as potentially that life-saving communication. So every engineer, every product manager, every QA person is keeping that in mind as they're building this platform that you all are relying on for your businesses. I'll give you one more minute to text in to see how you can volunteer with them. Whether you choose to volunteer with RAINN, or maybe one of the other organizations, or perhaps an organization in your own community, my wish for the 4,000 people in this room and the thousands more joining online is that one day you are sitting at your desk and you get an email with the subject line, "You did this." And when you open it, you find out that when you spent time in a conversation that really mattered, you saved someone's life. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. And thank you to Keely for telling us the amazing, amazing story of RAINN and the survivors that they're helping. You know, I am so awed and humbled when I see the work that so many of those nonprofits do, and the fact that we get to help them in a small way in their journey to help the most vulnerable people in our society. We just feel blessed to have the opportunity to work with them. And I always feel like creating Twilio.org and setting aside 1% of the equity of our company to sustainably fund our social good was one of the best decisions that we ever made as a company. And if any of you in your companies are thinking about making the same decision, please check out our friends at the 1% Pledge. They will help you on that journey, and they will help you figure out how to do that. It's one of the best decisions we ever made. And you know, one of the crazy things, when we started Twilio, we never imagined the kind of impact that organizations would find they could use Twilio to drive. We did not imagine that nonprofits would be able to use Twilio in all the ways that they are. But that's one of the neat things about being a platform, is that there's these use cases. There are these scenarios that you can never imagine that customers find. And in this case, they're actually life-changing use cases. And that is the power of a platform. And we've been building this platform now for 11 years, always available for developers and organizations of every type to find out new ways where engagement can change your company, change your customers' lives, change the lives of people around us. And our platform can do so many different things. This customer engagement platform really starts at that super network layer, where we interconnect with the carriers of the world to provide high quality and low cost communications to reach nearly every phone on the planet, to provide phone numbers in countries all around the world, and short codes, and every way you might want to connect with people where they are. And then on top of that, we have our channel APIs that use the super network to place phone calls and text messages. But not just that, we have programmable chat and video and WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger and Line and all these different channels that you can use to figure out how best to engage with a customer on those channels. And then on top of all those channel APIs, we've got the next layer of services that allow you to write less code because we've taken care of a lot of the hard orchestrations that you might have to write yourself. Well, we've taken care of for you. Whether that's intelligence when you're writing bots or our new Conversations API that makes it simple for you to build multi-party conversations without having to write all the infrastructure that's needed to do it. And then, of course, it's the layer on top, like Flex, our application platform, that takes all of this and orchestrates it into a contact center, or the marketing campaigns product that Samir talked about yesterday, that lets you spin up marketing automation and now even ads as easily as possible. And then, of course, we wrap it all in the very best developer tools and runtime. to make your job as a developer as easy as possible, not just to build, but to run and scale and grow and operate your applications at absolutely any scale with production quality. That is the Twilio engagement platform. And we talk about how developers are the future of customer engagement. And yesterday we talked a lot about the future of customer engagement and how every company is building legendary engagement with their customers. But today, for the rest of the day, we want to go back to our roots a little bit. And we want to talk about how developers are the core of the future of communications. Developers are building the future of how we as human beings, we as companies, and we as machines are communicating. Yes, we aren't machines. We communicate with the machines. So later today, we're going to learn about how 5G and IoT and narrowband are changing how machines and devices are connected to the internet to create whole new experiences. We're going to meet some of the developers making this new world possible and are building this world right before our eyes, people that we call doers. Maybe we'll do a little bit of live coding. It's not a Twilio Keynote if we don't do that. And a bit more. We got some surprises for you. But first, we can't talk about the future of communications without addressing an elephant in the room about the present of communications. There are way too many robocalls. There's too much spam. We don't trust our phones anymore. We can't answer them. We hate a lot of those communications that are on our devices. And see, we see a world where trust is built into the communications network. And we are already working to try to bring about that world. And so to give you a window into the world of trusted communications that eliminates spam, that eliminates robocalls, that makes it so every call and every communication you get on your phone is wanted, please welcome up the Vice President and General Manager of our super network, Christine Roberts. Christine, come on up.
So as Jeff mentioned, I run the super network for Twilio. And it's my team's job all day, all night, every night, to make sure that every call gets through and every message gets delivered. But I think it's really interesting to think about what happens today when our phones ring. And just like Jessica did yesterday, I'm going to take you way back to the age of the dinosaurs and outhouses. And I'm going to take you back to my childhood, where when the phone would ring, I would run down the hall and grab the phone off the kitchen wall. And I couldn't go too far, of course, because it was corded. But I couldn't wait to see who was at the other end of that call. Maybe it was Grandma saying she was sending me $5, huge win. Maybe it was my friend calling to figure out if we could do a sleepover. But the sentiment was that you couldn't wait to talk, and it was adrenaline, and it was excitement. But we all know that's not what happens today. Today, when our phone rings, the sentiment is completely different. And that's the issue at the root of trusted communications. The simple idea that the excitement and the fact that you want to engage with that phone call, you want to engage with that communication, the idea that we know who is contacting us and maybe even why. And maybe the best way to demonstrate this is to show you. You'll see up there, it's blurred out, so you don't call any of my friends, but all of those red calls up there are calls that I didn't answer. And please don't tell my mom, some of them are from her, but for the most part, I don't really answer my calls anymore. And I know I'm not alone. And let me tell you how I know I'm not alone, is because 3 out of 4 calls go unanswered today when we don't know who is calling us. And part of the reason for that, by the way, is that in 2018 in the United States, there were 48 billion robocalls. 48 billion. We're being flooded with people trying to reach our phones and make them ring. And we react as most humans would, and we just started to ignore it. But how often have you also gone back and checked that voicemail later on to find out that you missed something that was really important? Some of these calls are important. It could be a driver trying to deliver your food, or an agent calling from the bank to ask you if fraudulent activity is going on. And all of these calls, when they go unanswered, they cost your business's money. We know that an outbound call from a call center costs that call center about $5. That's hugely impactful to your business when the other end doesn't get picked up. And I'll talk today about how Twilio is addressing this, but maybe it's important to talk about how we got here. And I'm going to go back even before my time, over 100 years ago, where in the US, for example, there was one network built and operated by one company, and in that environment, everyone's implicitly trusted, right? It's super easy. But that's not how it is today. Today, our network looks like this. It's incredibly complex and fragmented, and there were thousands of carriers and operating systems and application platform providers and billions of devices accessing this ecosystem all day, every day. And this has created an incredibly complex and fragmented system, making it incredibly difficult to know who is using it and how they're using it, and even why they're using it. And we're working along with everyone else. You may have seen that there was legislation passed in the US recently to combat robocalls. And carriers are implementing new protocols and technologies to prevent known bad numbers from ever calling your phone in the first place, anti-spam apps, help consumers detect unwanted calls, and mobile operating systems are going to have settings that send your calls straight to voicemail. And at Twilio, my team uses machine learning and analyzes traffic patterns to figure out who's not using our platform for good. And while catching spam calls or robocalls or bad unwanted calls is important, and a never-ending task, candidly, we know that's not the whole story. We know that it's equally critical to allow known, good, wanted, and trusted communications to get through to all of you. And if you walk away with one thing from our intimate chat today, it's that it's not just enough to stop the bad stuff. It is more important to allow the good stuff to get through. And I'll give you a personal example. I was sitting at lunch about a year ago with one of my team members, and my phone rings. And it must not have been a very engaging lunch, because I came from a 408 number. It wasn't a number in my address book, and I answered it. And it was my daughter's school nurse calling to tell me that she had hurt her ankle pretty badly in gym class, and someone needed to come get her to take her to go get x-rays. And after I turned in my Mom of the Year award when I asked if she couldn't just hop on one foot to her next class, the reality hit me that if I hadn't answered that call, if that had just gone to voicemail, she would have sat there for multiple hours. My husband was on a plane, you know the story, you can relate. And that's the key. That's the key. It's so important that these kinds of calls continue to be delivered. And it's so important that your communications continue to be delivered to the customers that want and need to engage with you. And Twilio is best positioned in the ecosystem to identify these trusted communications. And here to help me show you how, I'd like to welcome to the stage our Director of Trusted Communications, Yulia Gorbanova. Welcome, Yulia.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Christine. Excited to be here.
All right, Yulia's gonna walk us through a scenario, another real-life example of my life, which you're getting way too much insight into today. But I was driving home from work about a month and a half ago, and I was on a conference call. Hands-free, of course, have to be hands-free in California. When we were in stop-and-go traffic, and all of a sudden, bam! I get rear-ended from the back. And once I figured out I was fine, the driver behind me who had hit me, who was texting on her cell phone, was fine. All I could think was, here the slog begins, because my car was maybe not so fine. And so I called the insurance company that night, I gave them the police report, and I went on with my day. The next day, I'm sitting in a meeting, and my phone rings, and it looks something like this. Now, obviously, I don't know who that is, and I didn't pick it up. And this happens the next day and the day after that, when finally I got a voicemail. And when I remembered to check that voicemail at 7 o'clock that night, I realized it was the insurance adjuster, and they were trying to get a hold of me to schedule the inspection to start the process of getting my car repaired. But imagine, just for a second, that instead of that unknown call, the call had looked like this. Now that's a call I would have stepped out of a meeting to take.
And imagine that every call you place will show your company name, your logo, and the reason for calling. Your interactions will become more precise and personable, and most importantly, engaging, because it will be trusted. I'm sure you're all building direct and lasting relationships with your customer. And with this capability, you can do it through phone calls, and your brand perception will increase dramatically.
So Twilio is enabling this ability. Twilio is bringing you the ability to let your known, trusted, dynamic communications be delivered, and we're calling it Verified by Twilio. So Yulia, I think this is magic. I'm very curious to understand how your team created this sorcery and what's going on underneath the hood here.
Yeah, I would love to show you. So we've done a few things. First, we improved our business verification process, such that we now vet that the business is legitimate, that it owns phone numbers it's placing calls from, and the brand represents the business. We also created a real-time protocol to make sure that this vetted information is delivered to the devices in real time. And most importantly, we verify that a phone call is being placed from your numbers at that time through Twilio platform, and only after that, we return the branding. I'll show you how you can enable Verified by Twilio on your accounts. This setup takes only 3 easy steps. So first, on your Twilio dashboard, you will see an option to create your business profile. And in this section, you'll provide your basic information, like your company name, your address, and the website, and the contacts of people who can operate with this information and authorized to do so. For this example, we're going to take DoorDash. The second step, and this information actually is being vetted, and your business profile will get verified status. The second step is my favorite. That's where we create the brands. And let's do it real time, so we can later see it in action. So brands come in all shapes and sizes. And let's assume that we're going to create a DoorDash brand that is in red colors. Here it is. Here you can customize the caller name that will get displayed on the devices. Next thing, we'll upload the brand. And on the side, you can see how the screen will look for your customers. So we'll change the background color. And the text color now. That looks pretty good to me. Let's save it. And the last thing is to associate this brand with a phone number. So this will be a voice call. And let's say that this phone number will be used by DoorDash for their drivers to communicate to consumers. And the drivers, called Dashers, will select the brand we just created, and the use case is conversational. Finally, we're selecting a phone number that will deliver this brand. As we click Save here, we're ready to place Verified by Twilio call. Now, there's one aspect we haven't discussed yet, is the reason for calling. We made it flexible so that you can customize the reason for calling according to your use case, per the customer you're trying to reach. Like you can pass in the name, the time, the places, anything that's related to that particular call. And all of this is available through the magic of APIs. So I will now place this call that we just configured. Hey, Christine, see, it's Ryan. It's Ryan from DoorDash, here with your lunch.
I know, that's amazing. And if y'all don't mind, I want to take a second here because I didn't eat breakfast this morning. So, Ryan, do you have my breakfast?
I do. Awkward timing, but no customer goes unserved. So.
Please welcome to the stage Ryan Sokol, VP of Engineering with DoorDash. Thank you so much for coming, Ryan.
Good to see you. Thanks.
So you've seen this. I'll take my lunch.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So you've seen this experience. Tell me a little bit about how you think this experience can work with DoorDash and how this would help you interact with your customers.
Yeah. So we're two things. We're a marketplace and we're a logistics engine underneath that, right? So we're basically an orchestration of many rendezvous points. And those rendezvous points come in person, with a Dasher picking restaurant food up. They come with parking. They come with meeting a consumer on the street. They come with digital communications via text, via in-app chat. We're exploring with you all. And, the most high fidelity means of communication is for sure the phone call. But as with you, I never answer the phone, even when DoorDash is calling, because I don't know what's going to happen. So this will help a lot with those interactions and streamline for us and make it a lot more efficient.
That's great. Why does this matter for DoorDash? And while I have you up here, why Twilio?
Good question. So we know what we are. We're a marketplace trying to empower and grow local economies. We're not a telecommunications company. So we know what we're good at. We pay for software, right? But when we're going to have a vendor that's going to provide, world-class, global sort of scaled software, we're going to want them to evolve and iterate. This is the iteration and iteration in place that's going to allow us to trust you as a partner forever, and something that we can't get from the little guys. There are trades out there that you can make, but this is global, and this will really help us sort of streamline our operations. So that's why.
That's incredible. Well, thank you very much, Ryan. Thank you so much. Let's give Ryan a big round of applause. Thanks for joining us.
I'll take your food. I'll just put it on the side.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Yulia, obviously, Ryan is super excited about this capability, but tell us a little bit more about how we're going to get this experience out to consumers everywhere.
That's a very important question. We've partnered with thought leaders in this space and with most popular anti-spam applications, Umail, Haya, Collab, and RoboKiller. And they together will bring this verified by Twilio experience to 200 million people around the world by the end of the year. And this is just the beginning. We're working with other industry players, such as device manufacturers and operating systems, to expand the consumer reach. Twilio's vision is for all of your customers to know who is calling them and why.
And so the key to, right? That's amazing. And we know that the key to great, direct customer engagement. It is an environment where known and trusted communications actually still reach the people that you need them to reach. So please join our private beta today, twilio.com/verified by Twilio. It's just another step in Twilio's journey to creating even more powerful customer engagement tools through trusted communications. Thank you all so much for your time, and please welcome back up my favorite CEO, Jeff Lawson.
I have seen that demo like a dozen times, and I'm still awed, and I cannot wait till all the calls on my phone are trusted and verified, so we'll know when to answer the phone and when not to. Now, developers on Twilio, as you can see, are building all sorts of things. Literally, now, things. The Internet of Things. And the world of IoT is about to get so much more interesting because of 5G, narrowband, and other new trends and technologies that are creating bigger opportunities than have ever existed before in the world of IoT. And so to give a window into the future of machine communications and how Twilio is helping to enable that coming world with Twilio Wireless, please welcome the head of Twilio Wireless, Evan Kumak. Evan, come on out.
Signal! We come together every year at Signal, and we talk about transforming everyday human interactions. And one of the ways that we do that is by bringing as much context as we possibly can into our software. Well, what if our software, the same software that drives our mobile apps, our enterprises, and indeed our conversations, had a deep and detailed context of the physical world around us, the things in our lives that we are so often talking about. This is the Internet of Things. And so in 2016, Twilio made it our mission to once again open up the black box of global telecommunications, but this time for cellular IoT connectivity. Our hypothesis then was that we would see new IoT verticals emerge, and that those verticals would be dominated by Twilio creators and builders. And today, we continue to see that vision play out. And one of those verticals is called micromobility. These are the scooters and bikes that you see on city corners around the world. And you may not have thought about it, but each one of those devices has a SIM in it, and it connects to a cellular network. And that's why you can pull your phone out of your pocket, you can see where all of these devices are, see whether they're busy, their battery level, and you can unlock and ride. And this market continues to blow away every expectation we've ever had. Some folks, including McKinsey, believe that by 2030, this micromobility market will be a $500 billion market. And it's Twilio customers like Spin, who are now part of Ford Motor Company, that are defining what it means to be successful in this new market. Spin built their company using the first version of our connectivity platform called Programmable Wireless. We're really excited about their connectivity roadmap and their strategy, including SuperSIM, our next generation connectivity platform that we announced on this stage last Signal. But Twilio customers are dominating, owning this market all over the world. Companies like Cirque in Europe, Movo in Latin America, Neuron in Southeast Asia, Beam in Korea, New Zealand, Australia. And maybe you rode here today on a Skip scooter deployed in municipalities across the United States, including right here in San Francisco. We've shipped over 1 million SIMs to the companies that are defining this market and changing the way that the world moves. Another industry where it's Twilio customers that are setting the pace is what we call automated property management. Rently's self-showing technology has been used more than 10 million times for renters to view available properties without the need for an agent present. And it's companies like Rently, like Dwello, like SmartRent that are offering peace of mind to the owners of hundreds of thousands of rental properties with smart home functionality like security management, energy management, and leak detection. We're shipping tens of thousands of Sims every single month to the companies inventing this category. So we should ask ourselves, why is it that the fastest growing IoT companies in the fastest growing IoT verticals are choosing Twilio for their IoT connectivity? And to explain that, I would like to start by unpacking an IoT solution. An IoT solution, every IoT solution has three components. You start with hardware. A lot of our minds race to hardware when we think about IoT. But all the hardware really is a single-purpose computer that models or manipulates some specific aspect of the physical world such that we can bring it into software. And it does that by using connectivity. The second element, in your home, this is probably Wi-Fi. For our customers, it's global cellular connectivity. And it uses that connectivity to interact with the cloud. But the cloud really is where the magic happens. This is where the fun starts. This is where you, as a developer, get to play with physical items, things, as if they were software objects. And I don't really need to explain to anyone in this audience that we've seen massive, massive innovation in the cloud the last few years. Unparalleled, perhaps, in the entire history of technology. And the same thing's been happening down on the device. I gave a talk yesterday about the way that components are so much more readily available, so much more inexpensive. But connectivity. There's these amazing new radio technologies like narrowband that we'll talk a little bit about later. But the platforms and the business models of connectivity are nothing but a remnant from a previous era. Most of the customers that find Twilio when we start talking to them are procuring their connectivity something like this. They have a product. They want to ship it to their customers. Guess where their customers are? Everywhere. Everyone's customers are everywhere. And so they start by going out and getting deals with carriers. Woo! Handful of carriers around the world. Some contract with some contractual minimum. Half a dozen sets of different pricing. Half a dozen different SLAs. Half a dozen different minimums to meet. And then it gets worse. Each of those carriers will give you access to some piece of software, something that they've licensed for their customers to manage connectivity. Maybe a product from a company like Cisco or Ericsson or NEC. And so now, you've got a half a dozen different contracts, you've got a half a dozen different APIs, you've got a half a dozen different logins, you've got a half a dozen different consoles, a half a dozen different SIMs. You set out for a solution, and what you found was a massive, massive problem. If you are still buying connectivity like this, and I happen to know that there are some people in the audience doing this because we spoke yesterday, but if you are still buying your connectivity like this, we need to talk. Because Twilio has solved this problem before. We solved it 11 years ago for programmable voice. And soon after, we solved it for programmable SMS. And with cellular IoT connectivity, Twilio is once again opening up that black box of global telecom, making it available to the developers of the world. How do we do it? It starts with our super network. We give you access to the best networks in the world, the best technologies, the best coverage, and the best local rates. We've built a scalable, globally distributed cloud management platform so that if you have 100 devices, great. If you have 10,000 devices, even better. If you have 500,000 devices and they're scattered to the far-flung corners of the world, you can always understand what's going on with your solution, you can provision, you can debug, and you can scale. And then we provide the developer tools you need to get started. Even if you've never built a cellular IoT connectivity product ever in history, we give you the things you need to get started. To experiment, of course, to innovate. And for folks who have used Twilio a lot, used our SMS products, our voice products, you'll recognize these three things in this model. This is the same technical model that enabled 6 million Twilio developers to completely transform the world of communications over the last decade. I talked a little bit here about scalability and reliability. I want to share very quickly a customer example that I think is just absolutely testament to the work that our engineering team has been doing to build the most scalable, most robust, most reliable connectivity platform on the planet. And that customer is Hewlett-Packard's Aruba. You may not know Aruba, but Aruba runs the largest, most critical Wi-Fi networks on the planet. Not the type you might find in your home, but rather the type you might find in a stadium, in a hospital, in a campus. And these networks are connecting millions and millions of users. And we all know what happens when the Wi-Fi goes down. Everyone is screaming. And in this case, millions of users are screaming. So what does Aruba do? Well, Aruba relies on Twilio. And Twilio's IoT connectivity and management platform, when all other channels have failed, when everything is down, to remotely access those devices all over the world, fix the problems, and get millions of customers, users I should say, back online. I have some theories, but I can't necessarily tell you exactly what industries we'll be talking about on this stage next Signal. But to help, we spent this year out educating developers on how to build their first ever connected device using IoT. This is a photo from Microsoft's Build conference in May of this year, where we worked with over 100 developers to build their first ever connected device solution using Twilio's connectivity, using Azure IoT, and using our brand new product at that time, Trust on Board, our IoT identity framework for the cloud. But there is nothing that we've talked about today that comes even close to making me as excited as what I'm about to share with you, which is that at Signal 2019, yesterday and today, we're going to work with more than 500 Twilio developers, all of you, to build your first ever IoT apps in our hands-on workshops. And we still have space in our workshops for this afternoon. If you want to learn how to change the world literally, come and register. And if you need some inspiration, you're in luck. I'd like to invite up our head of IoT marketing, Pallavi Vanashala, with an incredibly inspiring customer story.
I am so excited to be here. This is my first Signal, and I tell you, the energy here is absolutely infectious. I want to talk about a term that many of you have heard of, smart cities. It is a term so buzzworthy that we've actually built an IoT smart city right here at Signal. But what does this term mean? To us, it means never having to look for an empty parking spot. It means shorter commute times. I can get behind that. It means cleaner cities. It means cities that are built on the foundation of data and intelligence rather than guesswork and brute force. It means cities where networks are capable of connecting millions of physical objects and networks that can handle the data surge from these objects. The wireless industry is thinking about this as well. 5G represents the first time the wireless industry has come together to define network standards that are designed for both human and machine communication. And narrowband IoT is one such technology that is essentially meeting the requirements for 5G requirements for massive machine communication. It is purpose-built for IoT. It can handle millions of IoT devices in high-density environments like cities. To give you an idea, it can handle, like, let's take a city like San Francisco. It can handle 150 million devices, IoT devices right here. Last year at Signal, we introduced the first developer platform for narrowband IoT right here in the US in partnership with T-Mobile. And I'm proud to say that earlier this year, we announced the first commercial deployment of narrowband IoT with our customer, Sensonio. Sensonio is a smart waste management solution for cities. And to share their solution, talk about their product, let me invite Anas Idris, Business Development Manager from Sensonio. Anas. The trash can. So wonderful to have you here, Anas.
Thank you for having me.
How many times have you seen a trash can on Keynote stage? Well, we're pioneers here. Anas, when I spoke to you, I think it was probably about a month ago.
Yes.
I was really surprised to discover how complex and inefficient waste collection is in our cities.
Yes, unfortunately, yes. Today, waste collection companies just don't know which trash bins are full and which ones are empty. Traditionally, cities just approach every single bin, spending days and weeks circling streets with big diesel trucks. This is expensive and not green.
You know, that's a serious problem. I have to say, I've only been in the trash business now for a month with you.
Yeah.
But already, everywhere I go, everything I notice is just, all I notice is trash.
Yeah, welcome to my world.
You know, but Sensonio is changing this. Talk about your solution.
Exactly. Using IoT technology, Sensonio is redefining the way waste is managed all around the world. Like, we provide cities with smart waste solutions to let them cost-efficiently manage waste and be more green and clean.
Fantastic. And you have, what do you use? You have the sensors that go on the trash bins.
Exactly. Let me show you.
Yes.
The whole story starts here.
See what's
in
going
this
on here.
trash bin. So inside this trash bin, we install Sensonio smart sensors. They measure how full the trash bins are. And then we send the data back to our cloud software using Twilio IoT network.
Fantastic.
And let me tell you what happened.
Yeah.
We have just turned this dumb thing and connected it to the internet.
That's right. This is a plastic bin, and now suddenly it has become a digital view.
Absolutely.
So I know we talked about how this view is then passed to your customers. Can you talk about that?
So we provide Waste Manager in cities with this map. And on the map, they can see all their trash bins. And not only this, they can see how full they are using the colors. So the red ones, for example, are the almost full one, and they need service.
Fantastic. So what you've essentially done is you've taken our physical world and turned it into a digital view. So just like we can see lift cars on a map, now we can see trash cans on a map.
Exactly. So we got this data now.
Yeah.
And using our data analytics modules, we can give the cities insights to make them understand better their waste behavior and reduce their reduce their emissions.
Right.
And not only this, increase their recycling rates.
Right.
And the most important thing is that now they can make informed decisions. For example, we can optimize their waste collection routes. And let me show you this. So in the screen, we can now, through the software, generate an optimal route and then let the city send a truck and go and collect only the 10 full bins and skip the full one, the empty ones.
And this can go to the driver's app?
Exactly. We simply just send the route data to the driver app on any smartphone or a tablet.
Fantastic. So you've eliminated all the multiple rounds of circles that the trash cans would make with their diesel trucks.
Exactly. And we save on their emissions, and we make a city free of litter.
Now, you're deployed in many countries. Talk about some of the real results you're seeing in market with this.
So today, Sensonio has managed to complete 200 projects all around the world. So we provided smart waste solutions on 40 different countries. And we are proud to say today that we have delivered to our customers 30% savings on their waste budgets. This is millions of cities' money that can go to other things. And do you know what? When they implemented our technology, they have achieved 60% reduction on carbon emissions.
Those are some really impressive results.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. I want to talk a minute about narrowband. When I talk to customers who are using narrowband just like you are for your connectivity, and I ask them, what has narrowband given you? They essentially talk about the cost savings that narrowband gives them, and it's primarily because of 3 reasons. Number 1 is lower network costs. Number 2 is the low power consumption of narrowband IoT. And the third reason is the lower hardware costs. Let's talk about the power consumption for a bit, because we all know cities don't have power sockets that you can plug these sensors into. So your sensors run on these 2 little batteries. I remember we opened the sensor and we saw the batteries inside them. So on an average city, how many sensors would you deploy?
Like on average, a small city would require from us like 50,000 sensors.
50,000 sensors. And these batteries, how long do they last? Like how often do you have to replace them?
So without narrowband, we usually have to replace them every month, and that's expensive. Wow. And now with narrowband, we usually keep them there for several years.
Several years. So monthly replacement of 50,000 batteries, or actually sensors.
Very expensive.
Very expensive.
Yeah.
Anas, I want to talk about one question that I have actually never asked you.
Yeah.
I'll put you on the spot here. Don't worry, it's just you and me. Ignore the 5,000 people here. Why Twilio?
Oh my God, that's no-brainer. Like, I can say roughly, when we started with Twilio, we are getting our customer up and running like 20% faster. You make our life easier.
Fantastic. I love that answer. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us at Twilio. You made my day.
See you.
Thank you. Are you going to take your trash can?
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I'll never look at a trash can the same way again now. You know, what Anas shared was how Sensonio was able to eliminate the inefficiencies of one market, waste management. Our cities are plagued by so many such inefficiencies that are ripe for disruption. And Twilio IoT is powering that disruption. We have so many customers that are using our technology to create the cities of the future. And we have many of them right here at Twilio's IoT Smart City. So if you haven't checked it out, I really want you to come down to the community hall and check out all the customers who are defining our future. With that, I thank you for your time. And let me invite over our CEO, Jeff Lawson, back on stage.
Thank you, Pallavi. How cool is that? You know, there's this phrase that we say all the time. You've heard it. You've heard me say it. We can't wait to see what you build. And this is like our battle cry for the doers of the world. Because we love that spirit. We love that spirit of just picking up your tools and getting something done. And even sometimes being afraid if you don't know if it'll work. That's what makes it absolutely magical. And you know, after yesterday's keynote, I talked to a lot of people during the course of the day. And a lot of people kept asking me about my Papa Vic. And they were really inspired, and they were interested in the story about Papa Vic, which was great. And one of my favorite stories about Papa Vic. I'll tell you, I'll share one with you now because I really think that he was a doer. When he was young, shortly after he got married, he was starting a family. It was during the Depression. And he worked at some factory making, 20 cents an hour, whatever one made during the Depression. And he was starting his family, and he needed more money. So he went to the owner of the factory, and he said, I need a different job, one that will pay me more. What other jobs do you have? And the owner of the factory said, we really don't have any other jobs in the factory. There's only one job that we have open, which is driving the delivery truck. Do you know how to drive a delivery truck? And his answer was, give me the keys. He had never driven a truck before. But if you notice, he did not lie. He just said, give me the keys. I'll figure it out. And sure enough, he did. And that set him on this path, I feel, being a doer, later in life being an entrepreneur, and then becoming a sales rep that really loved his customers and built that legendary customer engagement. And so that notion of give me the keys is another way that we often express that doer spirit here at Twilio. It's that same notion. It's that Depression-era version of we can't wait to see what you build. And this is truly one of the founding ideas of Twilio. When we started back in 2008, the whole idea was if you give doers the tools that they need, if you give developers APIs to be able to build communications into any kind of application you might imagine, that we will be surprised. That we will be surprised by the things that you can build when you're given the ability to innovate. And that's why one of our favorite sign-offs all the time is we can't wait to see what you build. And last year, and every year that we've done this event, we honor a few special developers from our ecosystem who have inspired us with the things that they have built, with the impact that they have had, and the ideas and the gumption to go build something amazing. And we call that our Hall of Doers. And so right now, I'd like to introduce you to our 2019 Hall of Doers. Are you ready? We met our first doer of 2019. We met her just a year ago. She was at a TwilioQuest event in Los Angeles. She had recently left her career in fashion to move into the world of technology. And then she attended Signal 2018, just 10 months ago. And she left Signal feeling so inspired, feeling like she needed to learn to code. And so that became her mission. She went home, she started reading blogs, started watching YouTube channels, and learned to code, taught herself. But she realized something. As a person of color, she realized that not a lot of the content that she was seeing was made by people who looked like her. And so she set out to change that. And she went from being a consumer of content to a creator of content. She started a blog, Vogue and Code, where she talked about the challenges that she was encountering in the technology, learning how to code, and the challenges that had nothing to do with code as she was undergoing this transition into a life of being a developer. She started a YouTube channel where she produced videos with tutorials about Git and how to use the command line. And then she picked up Autopilot, and she started building a bot she called Monty, that teaches people how to write Python, all via a bot. And she tweeted about the entire process of building Monty. And since Signal last year, just 10 short months ago, she has inspired and equipped hundreds of people in her community and helped them on their journey to become coders. And here's the most recent news. She just last week signed a deal with the publisher Wiley to write and illustrate a children's book about coding. Yes. Let's hear it for our first doer of 2019, April Spate. Let's hear it. April, you inspire us. All right, our next doer of 2019 also helped his community on their journey to become better developers. But his community is the 3,000 software developers who work at the company Target. See, he's a Java developer, and he joined their contact center team 11 years ago. Because way back then, he had the foresight to imagine how a software developer could change the contact center, how that software mindset and how building could delight Target's guests. And Target, too, has since realized that in order to compete in the world of retail, you need to become a software company. You need to hire the best developers. You need to empower those developers with the best tools, with the best education. And so they launched something for their 3,000 developers last year. They call it the 50 hours of learning. And that enables every developer in Target to invest 50 hours to improve their skills on Target's dime, which is really cool. And this doer took that opportunity to organize one of our first enterprise superclasses. And because of this enterprise superclass, nearly 100 developers from Target were learning Python and playing TwilioQuest to do so at Target's headquarters in Minneapolis. So let's give it up for our second doer who helped bring Python and TwilioQuest to 100 developers inside of Target, Josh Hoyam. Let's hear it for Josh. Our next doer of 2019 really brings that spirit of we can't wait to see what you build. You know, we've been building this company and our product, our platform, for the last 11 years. And we love it when developers use Twilio in ways that we could have never imagined. And last year, this happened. We launched Autopilot here just last year, 10 months ago. And Autopilot is our conversational AI platform. And there's a lot of obvious use cases for Autopilot, things like building conversational customer service bots. But we never would have guessed a year ago that someone would have Autopilot make websites. But here we are. This doer is an entrepreneur. Started a bootstrapped company that helps small businesses with their online marketing. Helps small businesses get online, oftentimes their first online presence. And he found a bottleneck. He found a bottleneck in the process of getting a small business online, which was that creating a web presence is still hard. For many small businesses, for example, a hot dog stand, even using the amazing drag and drop tools that are out there, are still too challenging. And so this doer said, I think I have an idea, and using Autopilot, he built a bot where a small business owner can text or call in, answer a few questions, and within 5 minutes, that bot will build them their very first landing page on the internet. That is so cool. I never would have thought that that would happen, but yet it has. Let's hear it for our third doer, Paul Ezel, who created Twizzle. Paul! Now, before I introduce our fourth and final doers of 2019, I have a question for y'all. How many phone numbers do you have memorized? If you're anything like me, it's like my childhood phone number and, on a good day, my wife's phone number. So imagine if someone took your smartphone away and put you in front of a touch-tone telephone. Who would you call for help? Well, every day, hundreds of people in New York City find themselves in that exact situation when they're arrested. And getting help from a lawyer in the first few hours after you've been arrested can make the difference between going home that night or spending weeks or months in jail awaiting a trial. And so our next doers realized that there was an opportunity to solve this problem. And so the first thing they did is they went into the Twilio console and they said, we need to find an easy-to-remember phone number. And after looking through hundreds and hundreds of phone numbers, they settled on 1-833-GOOD call. Now, the astute observer out there will recognize that is more than 10 digits, but that's okay. It still works. And if you call that phone number, it connects the caller with one of 5 New York public defender offices in less than 60 seconds. And it's not just people who are arrested. Take the case of the mother who heard that her son was arrested and showed up at the precinct and couldn't find him and was afraid that he was already getting lost in the system. So she called Good Call, and a public defender met her at that precinct in minutes and helped make it so that her son could go free that day. And today, that son, he is thriving at college on a basketball scholarship. And so now, to date, thousands of people have benefited from calling 1-833-GOOD-CALL to help them in their moment of crisis. And so please give it up for our final doers of 2019. Jelani Anglin, Eugene Lynch, Gabrielle Leder-Rose, and Stephanie Yim, the creators of Good Call. Let's hear it. And let's hear it for all of the doers that we just met for the amazing things that they have built. Let's hear it. We get so inspired by the things that you're building that we want to hear about the projects you're undertaking, the crazy ideas that you have, and the wild adventures that you're on with code. And so I want you to text me. Not just today, not just tomorrow, throughout the whole year. Tell me about the cool things that you're building. Keep me in the loop. I want to know what you're doing. And me or someone on my team will get back to you. Because we want to hear from you. We want to understand what you're building and know how we can better help you. And so I look forward to hearing over the course of the next year the amazing ideas that you're building, and maybe someone in here will be a doer of next year. I really hope so. But this is truly just the beginning. Doers inspire us with the things that they're building. But this group of human beings is only growing. Software developers are growing every day. SlashData, an analyst who measures these things, says that the developer population is growing. They expect 20 million new software developers in the next 10 years. Think about that for a second. 20 million people are going to become software developers in the next 10 years. And we believe that every single one of those people has the opportunity to change the world with their code as well. And that's why we want to help train 1 million new developers. 1 million new developers. That's why we're on this mission. Whether it's learning your next API, learning a new language, or learning your very first line of code, we want to help 1 million developers to learn those skills. And that's why several years ago, we created TwilioQuest, to aid developers on their never-ending journey to continually up-level their skills. But we thought about it, and we said to empower 1 million developers, we need to do more. We need to change the game as it comes to developer education. So this year, we set out to do literally just that. And that's why we're excited to announce the release of TwilioQuest 3, an educational role-play game for the Mac, Windows, and Linux. And it's available today. And I wanted to give you a sneak peek at what's in store for you when you play TwilioQuest.
Much of life on Earth unfolds in the virtual worlds of computers. The power of code, the laws of these virtual worlds, is beyond measure. Some would use this power to deceive and oppress. We know them as the legacy systems. Every day, they edge closer to victory. One thing stands in their way. Brave explorers, leaders, heroes. Operators in the TwilioQuest program are known, across the cloud, as champions of justice. But their numbers are few. We turn to you for help. Take up the tools of software development. Become an operator. Save the cloud.
Please welcome up the creator of TwilioQuest 3, Kevin Winnery.
How's it going, folks? Nice to see you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Kevin, I like how we went from 8-bit and now we're at 16-bit.
Yes, eventually we'll get to like the Ocarina of Time level, like N64, and I assume like in 2030 we'll be like on Oculus Rift. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun to work on.
So show us a bit about how TwilioQuest works. So
Yeah,
first
sure
of all,
thing.
it's a downloaded application.
Yes, it is, and we just downloaded it just now, so I'm going to open it up. And yeah, so the game itself runs on desktop PCs across all platforms, as we just mentioned.
And there's like a goal that we have that we think we're going to unlock pretty soon.
A goal that we have around how many players we're going to have.
About consoles.
That's exactly right. So we're first going to be going to Steam, so we'll be releasing on Steam in the coming months when we have a few more of the missions buttoned up. And we've been prototyping on the Nintendo Switch as well, which is pretty exciting. So we'll bring the coding experience to the console. So when I load up TwilioQuest, sorry, these fancy Mac things kind of mess me up sometimes. So we're looking at TwilioQuest, and the reason we did a desktop PC game is because we wanted to be able to integrate tightly with your local development environment and actually use the tools that you have installed on your computer to help you, configure your local development environment and also learn how to code at the same time. So I just launched this game for the first time, so I'm going to create a character for myself. Being the first operator in the TwilioQuest program, I usually go with operator 0. So I can select an avatar, and I can also choose to customize my avatar. And this is kind of a fun way just to have your, when you're acquiring items in the game, have some place to equip them and show your progress. And as you're playing through TwilioQuest, you'll encounter a character named Cedric, who is a virtual intelligence program, who is your executive officer and co-pilot aboard the Fog Owl, which is your cloud exploration vessel. So after Cedric welcomes you to the Fog Owl, you can talk to him a little bit and learn a little bit more about the game world. But the primary thing that you're going to be doing is...
Does he tell us more about that mission? Does he tell us more about the... I love the dreaded legacy systems.
That's true. The legacy systems are a semi-fictional organization, which is a shadowy cabal of villains who are bent on dominating the virtual world of the cloud. And the way that we are going to prevent that is by training more operators in the TwilioQuest program, which is going to be all of you. So, so one of the primary activities you'll have as the Fog Owl is under construction is you can undertake training missions to learn a little bit more about basic programming skills. So in the basic training mission, the first thing that you're going to do is learn how to hack these barriers. So you'll find these like energy gates that are preventing your progress through the game. So there's different tasks that you'll be asked to do that's described in these objectives. And in this case, we're just kind of getting warmed up. So the first one that I'm going to be asked to do is just to look for a passphrase within the tutorial.
You're cheating. You didn't go find the passphrase.
I definitely did cheat a little bit. I may have played this level once or twice. So I did happen to remember that the secret passphrase is level up. And I know I'm actually going to need that a little bit later too. So I'll copy that. And then when I click hack, it doesn't bring up the Oxford Dictionary. That's a...
you're a Windows guy. Well,
yes, that is not... I think I know that the definition of that word. But now after I've hacked the barrier, now I can continue to make progress. So, and then if I open up my inventory, I now have some fancy new operator armored boots that I can equip on my character. So we keep trucking, and eventually you'll get to other barriers that you could hack actually by writing code. So TwilioQuest does have like an integrated code editor. So there's a Node.js runtime environment you can use to run your code. And in this challenge, you just have to create like a hello world web server application. So I run the example code that's there for me. And then in order to get past the security on this barrier, I copy in the URL. And then the TwilioQuest game will actually make a HTTP request to localhost.
Stop pressing so hard.
I know.
Very excited.
That's why I turn that off most of the time.
Reason.
I tap with authority most of the time. So I've...
Now how cool is that, by the way? There's a whole IDE and runtime built into the game so that as you write code, it can be evaluated for actually correctness and getting your experience points.
Yep, that's right. And if folks have never written code before, it's zero configuration. You can start writing JavaScript right away.
It's like a development environment built in for learning to code, which is so cool. And I will say, I've played TwilioQuest 3, and as a developer, like, first of all, it was delightful, even though, some of the initial lessons, I already knew, but at the same time, it was just so much fun to go through, gradually building your way up to having a full development environment running on your machine, learning new APIs, getting your Twilio account set up, and it's just a miraculous experience.
Yeah, it's been super fun to work on, and the content that's in there right now is largely focused on Twilio APIs. But in the future, the content in TwilioQuest will actually be primarily non-Twilio things. We want to teach people how to write SQL queries, write HTML and CSS, and hopefully, when we're on Steam, when we're on the Switch, it'll be the way that a generation of software developers learns how to code using a set of metaphors and gameplay experience that's going to be familiar for them. So we're moving on through the up to the final challenge of the basic training exercise, and in this one is a little bit more tricky. We got to actually write some code, and the point of this one is to write a function that does a specific thing. So it transforms a string in this function. We'll call it input string, and then we have to transform it to uppercase. Is there any JavaScript developers in the room who knows, like, what's the method call to transform a string to uppercase characters?
To uppercase?
That was an easy one. All right, good job. Well played, everyone. Well played, everyone. So we'll call it to uppercase. And because we're trying to make this input string look as stoked as possible, we also add 3 exclamation points to the end of it. And then when I click the play button, whoops, I didn't return that, though. Fix it. There you go. So when I return that string, now the TwilioQuest is going to look at my JavaScript code and evaluate its contents. And once it ensures that it's working, then I've actually made it through the basic training exercise.
And Cedric is there to guide you on the whole journey to defeating.
Yeah, Cedric is actually kind of a marvel of engineering. We've put a lot of time into making him the best possible co-pilot for operators in the TwilioQuest program. So so he is going to be your companion, and once you get through that basic training mission, there are many more missions unlocked. There's some special limited time missions you can do for people that are at Signal, and in the month of August to get some limited edition items, so be sure to check that out. But you can also brush up on your JavaScript and learn about many different Twilio APIs as a part of the experience as well. So yeah, that is TwilioQuest. Pretty sweet.
Very cool. And we've started taking this. Yeah, let's hear it for Kevin and the team who's built TwilioQuest.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you very much.
And we've started taking TwilioQuest on the road. When we've talked about our super classes, what we do is a live and interactive version of TwilioQuest in a room full of hundreds of developers where people are learning Twilio. Some of them are learning development for the first time. And we love taking this on the road, and we love in person working with developers of all skill levels, helping them to learn this. And so if you want Twilio Superclass to come to your city, let us know. We'd love to work with you to bring Superclass to your city. And if you love for us to bring Superclass into your company, like we've done at Target, and like we've done at U-Haul, and other companies, let us know. Because we love helping developers realize their full potential, and we love helping developers learn new skills. And of course, we love teaching people Twilio, but as TwilioQuest grows, it's going to teach all sorts of developer skills. And so if you feel like you have developer skills that you want the world to know about, that's another reason to contact us, because maybe the educational content that you have in mind could become a part of TwilioQuest one day. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. So obviously, being an operator in the TwilioQuest program doesn't come without its share of risks. There is the evil force of the legacy systems to contend with that you'll have to be slightly aware of. But we wouldn't ask this of you if we didn't think you were ready, for sure.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Kevin. We appreciate it. Let's give it up one more time for Kevin Winnery and the team behind TwilioQuest.
Thank you.
All right, so go to twilio.com/quest to start downloading TwilioQuest and become an operator, because we need your help to save the cloud. You got that, right?